I was walking out of an election party. Mr. Barack Obama had just been named the President of the United States. I remember how my steps felt lighter. I remember feeling like everything I had worked for my family, and for my children, everything had finally come to fruition. And then I saw the police cars swarming a single black man on his knees and cuffed in the streets. They laughed and made jokes as his dignity was washed away in the rain that had began to drop while I was on my way out of my friend's apartment.
How did Billie Holiday enter the drug war?
Billie's mother was convinced that music was the work of Satan and wouldn't let her hear a note of it at home. So Billie would offer to perform small cleaning tasks for the madame of the local whorehouse, but she had one condition. Instead of being paid a nickel like all the other kids, she would take her pay on this floor, in wrapped hours, left alone to listen. It gave her a feeling she couldn't describe. And she was determined, one day, to invoke that feeling in others. She always told me. And even after she started to inject heroin to take away the pain, she knew that the music would still be there waiting for her.
When I first saw the bright orange poster, I laughed. The words, "The drug war is the new Jim Crow law," were scrawled in giant black letters against the neon background. How ridiculous, I thought. The Civil War amendments protected us from discrimination like Jim Crow. Those days were behind us. It was just another one of those radical groups inciting more violence and unrest. The reality of the state of our nation finally struck me when it turned me into a victim. I had 1 gram of marijuana. Just 1 gram. Wrapped in a plastic Ziploc bag. I shook like a leaf as I placed it in my purse and got into my car. I couldn't afford to go to a psychiatrist or pay for prescriptions that would help me manage the anxiety I had developed over the past years. When the panic attacks became too much to handle, I turned to the only thing I thought would help. I didn't make it halfway home before I was stopped. I obeyed every traffic law. My lights were all fully functioning, and yet it didn't matter. I was pulled over for a routine stop. I knew what he doing wasn't legal. He had no reason to stop me, but I had learned over the years that putting up a fight resulted in far more damage than just going along. For a routine stop, I was yanked from my vehicle. The officer claimed that he smelled the drugs. For a routine stop, I was shoved against my Civic as he rifled through my personal belongings. For a routine stop, he patted me down, pulled my purse from my arms, and like a bloodhound, he ripped a single gram of marijuana from the Ziploc bag. He got lucky. There's no telling how many black men and women he had stopped before he happened upon me. Never having tried a drug before, I was taken from my car, handcuffed and driven to the county jail. I asked about my children and was met with absolute silence from the man who sat in the front seat. I asked if I could arrange for them to be picked up from school and was again met with silence. Months later, after serving time for a single gram of marijuana, I was released to find that having spent time in prison, even on misdemeanor charges, it was nearly impossible for me to find a job. I was marked. It was like I had a tattoo on my forehead, warning any and everyone that I was dirty. My relationships with my family and friends were damaged. My working life was over. I was thrust further and further into poverty, struggling to make ends meet. I lost everything my family had ever worked for.
You mentioned she injected heroin to take away the pain. What pain?
Lady Day had a tragic life. She was raped at the age of 10. When she moved to New York, she was raped once again at age 14. You have to understand something. Billie's parents didn't support her at all. She only had a 5th grade education. I met her through our line of work. We supported ourselves on the streets, and sometimes our clients would offer us a place to sleep. sometimes they wouldn't. Some days were better than others. But after 3 years of living like this, Billie got arrested. I didn't hear from her back until 1944, where she was discovered by John Hammond and introduced to Lester Young, the famous jazz saxophonist, and had started touring Europe with Count Basie's orchestra. She came back to New York, and by then I'd started working as a waitress. I remember she told me she was married to Jimmy now. She said that he made her feel amazing. She mentioned they did drugs together. He was the person that introduced her to heroin. Back then, I didn't realize that it wasn't her husband, Jimmy, but it was actually the heroin that made her feel amazing. She was arrested a few times afterwards, first in New York and then in San Francisco. Oh, Harry was obsessed with her.
Who's Harry?
Harry Anslinger? Oh, he was a psychopath, and everyone knew it. He was appointed head of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics, which was a tiny agency in Washington, D.C. So Harry hired Jimmy, a detective, to hunt her down. Jimmy was a dick, and when Jimmy was sent to raid her, he knocked at the door, pretending he had a telegram to deliver. Billie didn't answer the door, but Jimmy's partner arrived and sent for a policewoman to conduct a body search. "You don't have to do that. I'll strip," Billie said. "All I want to say is, will you search me and let me go? All the policewoman is going to do is look up my pussy." She stripped and stood there, and then she pissed in front of them, defying them to watch. She was busted again. She was put on trial. She stood before the court, looking pale and stunned. She refused to weep on the stand. She told the judge she didn't want anything else. She didn't want any sympathy. She just wanted to be sent to a hospital so she could kick the drugs and get well. "Please," she said to the judge, "I want the cure." But Harry wasn't done with Billie. Billie collapsed at the age of 44, and she was taken to New York City Metropolitan Hospital. She had listed me as her emergency contact. I was there when they took her off the oxygen. She lit a cigarette. "Some damn body is trying to embalm me," she said. "You watch, baby," she told me. "They're going to arrest me in this damn bed." Narcotics agents were sent to her hospital bed and said they found less than 1/8 of an ounce of heroin in a tinfoil envelope. They claimed it was hanging on the nail of a wall 6 feet from the bottom of her bed. Billie couldn't reach that. They summoned a grand jury to indict her, telling her that unless she disclosed them, her dealer, they would take her straight to prison. I remember screaming at them and telling them it was against the law to arrest somebody who was on the critical list. They explained that the problem had been solved. They had taken her off the critical list. No one was allowed to see her after that point. She went into heroin withdrawal, alone. She was given 10 days to recover, but when I was allowed in to see her, she looked sick. She told me, "They're going to kill me. They're going to kill me in there. Don't let them." The police threw me out in that instant. They fingerprinted Billie on her hospital bed. They took a mugshot of her on the hospital bed. They grilled her on the hospital bed. They didn't let her talk to a lawyer. You know what? Billie didn't blame Anslinger's agents as individuals. She blamed the drug war itself because it forced the police, to treat ill people like criminals. And so, when she died on her hospital bed, with police officers at the door to protect the public from her, she looked as if she had been torn from life violently. She had 15 $50 bills strapped to her leg. It was all she had left. She was intending to give it to the nurses who had looked after her, to thank them.